Welcome to At the Vanguard. We're TB Vanguard, and our motto is for fans by fans. We showcase fans on the front line of the Team Breezy movement. This podcast is an open forum to discuss current topics as they relate to Chris Brown and his fan base. My name is Nikki, and I am calling in from the Midwest. Dee's here. Who else still needs to introduce themselves?
Tammy from New York.
Hey, Tammy. Okay.
Tammy.
April, Texas.
Okay. Hey, April. Calling in from Texas. And then we've got, I don't know if Paula can hear us, but Paula's calling in from the East Coast as well. Okay. So this is our second podcast. I'm Nikki, and I'm going to be doing the moderating. I think you guys saw that we had a few questions that we sent out earlier in the week that we kind of wanted to focus on for our podcast. Since Tammy, you're joining us, did you get to see Welcome to My Life?
Yes, I did.
I've
seen it the first time. Not the second.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to share that you liked about it?
Well, I liked everything about it, but what really I was really stuck on is the fact that Chris still won't say who the girl was that he was who he had an affair with or whatever, and that's it. I was thinking at first maybe he didn't want to say the name because in case of a lawsuit. Yeah, in case of a lawsuit, or I just wonder why he hasn't actually said the person's name or the lady's name or the girl's name, as he said that he was having an affair with.
That he was with before the relationship.
Right,
yes. Right. Because yeah, I do remember that piece. Yeah, I think people have put two and two together. Okay, all right, cool. So, one of the things that we wanted to do for this particular podcast was focus on, with it, at the time it was really close to Father's Day, and so we wanted to focus on fatherhood for young fathers, right. And of course, Chris is a father as well. So we had a few questions that we threw out on our timeline for those that follow us on social media, and one of them in particular was focusing on a two-parent household, and Paula was actually going to speak a little bit about that.
Question specifically was, do you believe that the two-parent family is always the best structure? I think it's the always that probably would make me want to say no, but I actually am a very strong believer in the two-parent structure. Not just because maybe it's because I came from one, but also I also chose not to have children because I didn't get married. Now, of course, many people can have children who have children without being married, but that was my choice, my personal choice, because I believe so strongly in it. But of course, it's not always functional. So I guess that's the question that comes up from the documentary and just from life itself. Did anybody have an opinion on that? Want to share their opinion?
Well, this is Nikki. I also grew up in a two-parent family household, and I do remember briefly when my parents separated, what that was like for me. Mm-hmm. And they got back together, of course, but having to go through that as a young child, and and they didn't live far from each other either. I could walk to my dad's house, but still, it's a completely different environment when you're used to having both of your parents there. Then all of a sudden you're going to see your dad on the weekend, or what have you. It's a completely different structure, and I enjoyed growing up in a two-parent household, but I know, again, that's not always, like you said, functional, and it's not always appropriate for certain circumstances. You know, it's different for everyone. But I definitely do believe if you have two parents that are willing to work together and provide love and a stable, consistent foundation for their family, then that's always going to be a bonus.
Right. And I agree.
Well, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. I grew up in a two-family household, but not for very long. My parents separated when I was very young. And my father was a real hardliner, so I did not want them to get back together. Maybe that's the naive way of thinking of things as a kid, but that's how I actually felt. I love my father dearly. I love my mother dearly, but my father was really, really a hardliner, and so was my grandmother. So it worked out for me that way. But yeah, I love both my parents to death, and I don't really I believe it's very important, even though I didn't really feel any differences because my dad was always there. Now, maybe if he hadn't been in the picture as much as he was, then I probably would feel differently. But he was there. He just wasn't inside the home. So I really don't have any issues with growing up without having both parents inside the household, because I didn't.
Okay. Well, right. He was still so involved, so you didn't feel a difference because he was still so involved.
Right.
And
I preferred it that way because my dad was really, really strict.
Okay.
Oh, well, right.
Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, hi, April.
Yep.
And I started out in a single parent household with my mother, and she did wind up getting married. And so I felt like me and my mother had a much better relationship before she got married.
Mm-hmm.
And it really changed after. And my quality of life changed. So, I think it really depends on, it just really depends on what kind of mother or single parent you are when it comes to your child. So I just think it's, I'm married and I do have, children with my husband, and we are a two-parent household. And like you, Paula, I would have never, ever gotten married I would have never, ever had kids had I not got married.
Okay, you're with me, yeah.
So I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
I have a sister who is a single parent, and she struggles. I can see the struggle. I can see how much harder things would have been. She has to do, be mom and dad. And she looked up by having two girls versus having a boy. Which I think is a little bit harder when you don't have a dad around to provide that discipline for that child. But I just think it depends on the heart of the person. I mean, if you are coming from a good place and you accept this woman's child when you're coming into the relationship, you're okay that she had children with someone else, then you should be, building that family up, not tearing it down. So I think it just depends on the heart and the spirit of the person.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree with that.
Definitely agree with that. And I think I noticed too that even though I really enjoyed my parents being together, I didn't necessarily understand. I'm sorry, this is Nikki. I didn't necessarily understand why they split when they finally, not finally, but when they took that brief separation for almost a year. I didn't get it, but I really remember enjoying spending that time with my mom, just the two of us. And then we finally got back together. As I got older, I could see what the issues were. So, but I think sometimes too, as kids, we don't always understand the dynamics of what's really going on. We just, for those of us that are used to a two-parent house, so we just want that because that's what we're used to. But as we get older, we're able to function, you know, either way, as long as we have that strong support and our parents are, you know, involved. But I have seen year end too, April, even within my own family and extended family, you know, relationships where one of the parents already has kids and meets someone else and has kids with them, and then they're more focused on their kids with them and not with the other children that they have.
Correct.
And just, yeah.
I was very envious growing up when I saw people who had very good, when they were able to be from a great family. I was very envious of friends of mine who had great relationships with their mom and their dad, and it just seemed so, it's just so storybook.
Right.
You know, I really was.
Sure.
And I knew that when I got ready to, you know, get married and have children of my own, that I would provide the same dynamic for my children.
Right. Okay.
This is Jandy. I think it, and just kind of, because I work with kids and families, and I think it kind of, I think it really just depends on, you know, if people are married and things kind of fall apart. I kind of have seen like both sides of that. Sometimes it's, a lot of people will try to stay together just because of the kids, but kids are so much more perceptive sometimes than what we give them credit for, and I think sometimes that can end up being a lot more harmful than if you just, you know, you go ahead and go your separate ways and then try to co-parent the best that you can. A lot of times, some people do a real good job at that, and then some people don't. They're very immature, and they end up pitting the kids against each other, and it becomes World War III. That's a bad situation. But, you know, if it's, I think it just kind of has to be what works, you know, for each individual situation. But when you're not in that two-parent household situation, I guess it's, you just have to, again, kind of co-parent, and got to remember, be the adult and not, you know, putting your child against the other one, or, you know, well, what's going on, you know, kind of question them. Well, you're at your dad's, you know, well, who's he seeing? Or when you're there with their mom, who's your mom seeing? And, you know, just putting that child in the middle. You got to remember it's for the best interest of the child, and not doing that to them, because that's the worst. But sometimes people forget that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They do. They definitely do. Okay. Would anyone else like to add anything or add their thoughts as far as what they believe regarding a two-parent family, if it's the best structure, or if it's not the best structure?
Tammy.
Hey,
I
Tammy.
really feel it is, because you get, as a child, you get so much from both parents. You know, even though as a child, I did not want my dad to come back, but my dad is my rock. Like, I really look in a man, I look for qualities that my father possessed.
Right.
Like, my father was a real manly man. So any guy that I've ever dated, I'm 26, any guy that I've ever dated has to possess some of my dad's qualities. You know, that's actually what I look for in a guy. So, as my mom, she was like super pushover, easygoing. So, I'm actually mixed with both, my dad and my mom. So, I believe it is very important. But for me, it really didn't have an effect. I don't think so. That it had an effect on me, because I wasn't raised in a household with both my mom and my dad. But it depends on each individual. It depends on the individual and actually your parents. Like, what kind of parents do you have? Are they, you know, is the child able to see the mom and the dad as much as possible? You know, it depends on the situation, and trying to make a better situation for the child or the children is best. And that's easily said and done, because a lot of times in relationships you do not want. Okay, for example, Chris and
Yeah.
I always see their pictures, and I always think that I wish they could have one birthday party together. And I just feel like that. Just one, I would like to see her there, even though I, don't care for her too much. But when I'm looking at the pictures, I would like to see her at least at one party, or Chris at one party at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see that.
Good for loyalty.
But I think he did that. He did make a conscious decision. He said to keep it separate. I think probably in the beginning because they didn't get along. I think they seem to be getting along better now, as far as I can tell. But I think it was to keep any confusion. So they co-parent, but very much separately. And I agree. It is a little sad that she has two parties. But for her, she's having two great parties. So that I guess is good in that sense. I mean, she's getting it all. She's getting it all. But I think the key, Jenny, for your situation is it's not just your situation, but a lot of people. When even though your father was not in the home, you never missed having two parents because they were both still involved. And I think the reason I was so against having children as a single parent is that I've seen in my family and even now with as an adult with friends that so many men can walk away from their children and not look back. And maybe they're an adult, you're graduating from college and they show up at the graduation or that kind of thing. I've seen that. And I just did not want that for any child I had. And so, and growing up, and I had a great daddy. I had a daddy, and my father lived to be 91. He just died a few years ago. He was always, like you say, my rock. Yeah, and I believe, thank you. And he taught me many life lessons. But if your father's around, just like you said with me and Chris, if your father's around, I don't think you have that loss. You don't have that loss of it. Yeah. Because
I think part of the problem too is it seemed like it started off really smooth with Chris and me, and then she was still with her boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
And then it seemed like they were trying to get notoriety and shine and all that. And I think that's when Chris pulled back and said he didn't want to be a part of that. Loyalty's still young, so there's still an opportunity for them to mend that.
Yeah.
But I think, everything was smooth. Everybody had their own separate lives, and it seemed like things were going to work out perfectly. But, she was with that guy, and he was trying to, act like he was a father figure and do it publicly. And she was doing things publicly, too. And I think that's what pushed him away from wanting to have it be co-parenting or partnering together. But they could probably work it out. Because Joyce and everyone's close with me, and that's important too.
That's a good point too. I've noticed the grandmothers are close, and Royalty's actual parents, as engaged with each other as at the moment. Her grandmothers, both of her maternal and paternal grandmother are, they all seem to be a lot closer than they were in the very beginning. So that's good to see.
Yeah.
Well, plus the grandmother kind of went out there too and saying, remember everything on social media. She was saying, she needs security and she needs private school. Brooke was not even 1 year old. And
I remember that.
Yeah. So I think that turned him off. And maybe they can all come together in the future, but they started off wrong.
Yeah, they definitely did. Okay.
That's D Talk. D, we're saying say your name. That was D Talk.
And it's D, but let me see. I know Tammy's there. Hey, Tammy.
So let's move on to our second question that we had put out there earlier in the week, and that is a support group important for fathers? I think a support group is very important in general. There's, now there's so much information out there about parenting, but it still doesn't necessarily go the way it's written in a book. So anyone that you can have around you that can offer you positive support and just give you encouragement, especially when you need it, you're going through something that you've never gone through before and raising a child, whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship with their mom, you need that additional support. It's hard to do that, you know, in my opinion. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and I think especially with kind of young fathers, because like Chris is we was what, 25, he's 28 now, but the young fathers in particular. I mean, not all of them that are fathers, are young fathers, have had fathers in their lives, so they're sort of feeling their way and learning, and so I think it's good for them to interact and support each other, sort of learn how to be a father, you know.
That's true too. Especially you'll see children once they become older, they're a parent the way that they were parented, and I'm not necessarily talking about discipline. I just mean in general.
Yes.
And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's not a good thing. So you don't necessarily know that there are other ways, you know, to do things. So just again having that support as a young dad, or even just as a first-time dad. You know, you really will benefit from having that.
Totally
Tammy, I think that a support group is great for young fathers or fathers in general, because especially those fathers who don't have like good jobs or their finances aren't together, I think it's extremely important for them, because I only see like a lot of celebrities, like you'll see Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg, like, you know, they've been married for years and raised been really good fathers, and also Chris, and it has a lot to do with, you know, being able to take care of your family. And I think that some men that can't take care of their family or don't, you know, have good jobs or their financing, or they don't have, you know, enough money to do so, they tend to don't come around.
Yes.
For those stressors,
You know, I guess,
those life stressors. Yeah.
And maybe a support group would, you know, be able to help them, because even though you don't have the finances, you know, children really don't know about that. They just know they're with their dad or they're with their mom, you know, and that's more important than anything.
Yeah, it is.
Totally.
It is. I agree with that.
This is Jandy. I agree. I think that support groups for dads are great, because there's, first of all, kids do not come with instruction manuals when they're born.
Right.
And these anymore, like with all the technology and stuff that kids have got access to, they have ways to get into so much more trouble now. And, you know, just, you know, it's more than just, you know, you can't just like ground them from one thing, and then they've got so many more ways to go behind your back and get into trouble with stuff now. But and the other thing too is there's so many resources for mothers, because it's just, the expectation is that if both their parents are not together, and there is that separation, that the child will be with their mother, and that's who will be the primary caretaker. So there's all these community things for moms, but you know, the dads are just kind of the ones that are involved in their child's life, and they are doing things. They're just kind of left hanging. So any resource, support group or whatever, yes, I think that is a great thing for them. So
That's a great point.
I also agree, this is April, that support groups are very beneficial, and even having a great network of people who you can ask questions of, just like he has Jamie Foxx. He also has Usher, and some of those people that he can talk to, and I thought it was pretty neat that he spent his Father's Day with a group of friends who were also fathers, so I thought that was pretty positive.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great.
Yeah. So I do notice that, like you said, it's not as much support for dads.
Right.
Hopefully that will change, although it does seem like, at least with celebrities in the court system, dads are starting to, you know, things aren't always necessarily going the mom's way. as far as custody battles and things like that. So
Right.
maybe with that, they'll start opening arenas for, different avenues so that guys can get the support that they need in raising their children. Even hair shops, like little networks, so that they can learn how to comb their daughter's hair,
Oh yeah.
which Chris has officially learned now. He can put it in a ponytail.
Oh really?
He can. Remember, he showed us on Instagram. He can put his baby's hair in a ponytail. That's important.
That's a breakthrough.
I had that. My dad, I have too much hair. He could not put my hair in a ponytail, but he tried. So, so any kind of support that they can receive is awesome. So
Yeah.
that's good that we agree on that. I think one of our final questions that we have is, how important is a relationship with your biological father? And I believe Dee had some thoughts that she wanted to share about that. Dee?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is tying that back to the documentary. And, Chris does have a relationship with his dad, his biological dad. But it was the stepfather that had a very negative impact. And again, at least Chris knew his biological father, but a lot of people struggle with not knowing who their biological father is. And that, for some people, that seems to be something in the back of their mind that they always have to deal with. It's just, as far as tying it back to the documentary, if he could have gotten out of the situation a lot sooner, I think it would have helped him from a mental health perspective a lot better.
Yeah. This is Nikki. I do agree with that. I do remember his mom doing an interview for Sister to Sister magazine. She talked about that in a way. She stated that Chris always thought his dad was too strict, and that initially he stopped wanting, and this was when he was about 9, he stopped wanting to go over there because his dad was so strict, and his mom was more of a kind of play and be your friend. They had that kind of relationship, where dad wanted him to do chores and built that kind of responsibility, and mom was a little more laid back. So, but I definitely agree with you. I thought about you when I was remembering that. I was like, yeah. My dad was strict.
But I bet now that he's older, he appreciates it more.
I'm sure he does.
When you're kids, when you're little, all you know is that, oh God, here he comes.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think it's because your mother is so easygoing, and that dad that's like, oh no, this is not going to happen. You're going to do this. I want this done. And like the king of the castle. So, you have your mom. You want to be with mom more. So, but as you get older, it's I don't look at my dad the way I did when I was younger. Yeah, but I still can't talk to my dad in any kind of way.
Oh no.
Like,
Yeah.
Even though I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Like my dad is just not having it.
Yeah. That's
like,
so fun.
who you think you're talking to?
Yeah, you're never, yeah. You're always his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never get to be an adult to your parents. You really don't.
No.
Yep.
This is April. I never met my biological father. So I am one of those people.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I don't know. I don't think you can miss what you never had. So, I don't know. I just, I never, I could have always probably found him and searched him out, but, I did have a grandfather. I did have uncles who were very strong and very good male figures in my life. So, and same thing with my husband. He did not have a biological father in his life as well. So his mother was a single parent, and she just didn't remarry, which I think really was beneficial because she was able to focus on her kids and not try to manage that family dynamic with that extra man there. So I don't know. I think that it's good if you do have a good relationship, I think it's good that if you get to have a good relationship with your dad, I think that is very beneficial. I think it's very key. But it's not something that's ever hindered me or kept me from being and doing what I want to do.
No, I was just going to say, kind of going off of what April just said, I think that's, I think it's more off of how, I guess, the parent or whoever ends up raising the child, because sometimes grandparents end up stepping into that role.
Yes.
If there's, if there's other, male role models in that child's life, or also how, the people who do help raise that child end up, I guess, addressing that, as to why the biological father is not around, how they help that child process that throughout that child's life and help them, understand that, deal with that, move on with that. There are some kids who end up taking that, very, very hard, and they just, they never move past that, and it just affects them their whole life, and they just can't deal with it. They can't handle it for whatever reason. But then there are some who they have a healthy outlook on it, and they're able to, to handle it and just be like, like one of the things Pac said, my anger wouldn't let me feel for a stranger. It just, I think it's every situation, again, is different. It's just how the other people in your life have helped you deal with it, or work around it, or process it, or whatever. And again, if your biological dad is in the picture, but it's a negative, sometimes that can be even worse than them not being around at all. So I think it just, each situation is different.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, it's but I think rather than feeling like you're missing, I think what my point would be is not that you're missing something or that you cannot flourish without, but I think it's just such an advantage when you do have it. But I, because of my strong father, because of the way he made me feel about myself, but my self-worth, and I think that's an advantage that many fathers give, many good fathers give their daughters. I didn't take a lot of crap. I didn't stay when things didn't work out. I mean, especially when if things got ugly. I decided, I'm fine by myself, and I wanted to be married. I wanted to have children, but it just wasn't enough for me to put up with things that weren't ideal or to my advantage. And so I think that's the advantage that fathers or father figures, whoever that may be, give to especially daughters. And with sons, I mean, that Jill Scott song, I can't teach him how to be a man. I can do this, I can do that, but I can't teach him how to be a man. And that's key for boys. And like you said, your sister was lucky that she had girls, since the fathers, wasn't willing to be a part of their lives, which I never understood it, but that's how it is. They're just men who can do that. They can just walk away.
Yeah. I do think that it's very beneficial to have girls to have fathers in their lives, because it teaches them, like you just said, what they will and won't put up with in those relationships, and it teaches them to want to not lower their standards. I definitely think that is very beneficial for girls. Yeah, I struggle with having, and I'm kind of glad my sister hasn't just went and married any old body,
right.
Just so her children have a father. She is the mother and father, and maybe because of the dynamic in our household is the reason why she hasn't done that.
Right. Well, I was just thinking, though, if anybody got to see the documentary again, or I know Dee got to see it again, it didn't come back in my area. If they saw something different or be able to pay attention to something else, what were your thoughts about it?
Well, I saw it like 3 times. So I got to see the sneak peek. And I think, for a lot of people who are King Louis, they wanted to know what happened in the car. And then they wanted to know what was going on with the whole person who was texting Chris or emailing Chris. So this time around, though, since all those questions had been answered, I think I enjoyed it a lot better, and I was able to look at other things that were being covered in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing that was really surprising is I realized how strong Chris is, and especially towards the end of the documentary, you could see all the things he went through, and you could see he was still a strong person. And so since, all those pressing questions were answered, I was able to sit back and watch him a lot more, hear more about his relationship with his daughter, and that seemed to be a big focus for him, was his relationship with his daughter. So I definitely think we see it the next time, since those pressing questions have been answered about what happened in 2009. You're going to be able to enjoy the film a lot better, and you'll get to see there's being a progression. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. This is Nikki. I know that when I was watching it the first time, I was kind of on the edge of my seat, and I get really weird when I get secondhand embarrassment. So I was all worried, and I was like, I need to be in Kleenex, and because I don't know what he's going to talk about and what I'm going to see, and so there was one part that kind of made my eyes water. But outside of that, now I can watch it again, and just enjoy it, and just enjoy everything that I see versus just being on the edge of my seat because I don't know what he's gonna, say about anything.
Right.
And then I can watch it again and again and again and again. So I'm looking forward to it finally being available. I know everyone's pre-ordered it and stuff like that, but I'm looking forward to actually being able to just watch it whenever.
Yeah, I also ordered the DVD, but that's sort of, I'm still a little old school, I'm old, so I still like to have something concrete in my hand. So I have the DVD, I want the DVD. But
that's what I want, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll see the iTunes, but I ordered the iTunes too, I'll watch that. That's the one I'll probably actually watch, because you don't have to have a device or anything. But I really want to see it again, and maybe see it with my doctor. I went to the doctor on Wednesday, and my doctor is basically, she's Team Breezy. I know we shouldn't say that, but she was like, I missed it, I couldn't go that night, so when can I see this somewhere else? She's like really concerned about it. I see that Can't Stop Won't Stop is going to be on Apple Music, I guess this Sunday of the 25th. And I guess that's the format now for some of these documentaries. Because they did up showing, I believe, in Harlem. I don't know how big his the showing was, because I don't think it was here. Because I definitely would have gone to see it. But now it'll be on Apple Music. So that seems to be the new format of being in the theater and then available on iTunes. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have any finishing last words or anything that they wanted to share that they didn't get a chance to share?
Jen?
I guess the biggest thing I took away from the documentary was just Chris just has the most incredible strength probably of anybody ever. I mean, it would be hard going through everything that he has gone through, and just your friends, your close acquaintances, your family, knowing all that, and getting up and keeping on every day and going on. But I can't imagine getting up every day and turning on the TV or turning on the radio, local news, Chris Brown, this, that, or whatever. And every single day for the last almost 10 years,
Yes.
had to listen to that. And every breath that man takes, somebody tries to twist it, turn it, and relate it back to a mistake that man made when he was a child. Basically, he was only 19 years old. Mm-hmm. And he's just, he sat back and he's just kept on getting up every day and going that much harder at work and just keeping on and keeping on. And how many people would have done that? So many people would have just laid down and quit, or crawled into a bottle and just died. I mean, and I was just blown away by that. I guess that's what caught me off guard the most about that after the documentary. And I was just like, wow, just when I thought I couldn't love that boy anymore.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, I think. Like, a lot of people, they always say, oh, why do you follow or you're a fan of Chris Brown? And some people will say, oh, it's because, he's a really great entertainer. And that's not the only thing. It's like, he's a person that's gone through a lot of trials and tribulations in his life, and he's overcome it. Like, he's never given up. He's always kept going. And even the documentary and, about him and Rihanna, like, the media, they're so, like, biased. And it can really be a learning situation for a lot of young people now that are probably going through the same thing. And instead of them dissecting what happened, to teach young people that's probably going through that right now, and also instead they want to put a negative, tone to it and, make up stories instead of actually, making it a learning process for young adults and, teenagers. And the fact that he also, keeps going is very inspirational to a lot of us, because if he can, make mistakes in front of the whole world and get bashed, like Jan said, for the past 10 years, then it gives everybody else, like, an inspiration to follow their dreams too and not to give up. I mean, he's doing it right in front of us all.
Exactly.
And he is like, there are so many different aspects. He is like a diamond, because there's so many facets and aspects of where he is like a role model that, and I don't even know that Chris even comprehends that. Like, he struggled with, like you said, with all that, like they could use that situation as a teaching moment for kids. Just he's been through the sex abuse, the domestic violence in the home, like the trauma with that, and that with his stepdad, like he, the mental health stuff, like the everything, like there's just so many different things. And then, he has his art, he has the dance, he has the music, the basketball, like he's got so many different coping skills, and he uses all that, I mean, there's just so many different facets to him, and he just blows my mind. It's unreal. But they don't use that, and he could just...
They don't want to have a real conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. They don't. Yeah. They don't. Because that documentary is so many things that you can really have a real conversation that's actually going on now. Or, some girls or, women or men that's keeping it a secret like they did. Yeah, like they've been fighting. We had no idea until 2009, but they've been doing it so long. And what I got from that is that it was two young people doing adult things because they had the money, so they can go on vacation, they could go wherever they want, doing adult things, but they wasn't able to, handle the adult consequences.
Right.
And
very true.
They got themselves in trouble.
Exactly.
Well, I think one of the things that you guys brought up, though, is that, people can have a conversation from the documentary, because there's tons of things that haven't been explored to Chris's benefit and explained, and there's a lot of things that people can learn from, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing the podcast. We're gonna talk about a lot of the topics that were in that documentary, and allow us as fans to talk about it, but also to get the word out, because as much as people are watching Chris, they're watching the fan pages as well. And I think when they see that we're talking about tangible things like domestic violence, molestation, single fathers, young fathers, all the things that he's going through, and that we can explore in the documentary through podcast, it's going to actually have an impact on people. I mean, like right now, we're talking to each other, and I'm sure after we're through talking to each other, we're going to talk to our friends and family and try and get the word out and actually have an impact based on what we saw from this documentary that we wouldn't have done if we hadn't seen the documentary to push that and release it. I think that's something that we can do. Besides supporting him, as an artist, we can also help tell his story.
I think one of the problems that happened in 2009, I mean, many people had situations like them, even public figures that same year, and it was ignored. In particular, John Cornelius, who was in his 60s, but he had a domestic violence charge just a few months before the BET Awards, and they gave him like a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that year. I think the problem with Chris is that it's the whole thing of what I call it's called the hive mind. It was decided by media, whoever, that he was going to be the example and he was going to be made into the monster, and that's maintained. People don't like to think for themselves. They want people to give them an opinion. Oh yes, that's what we hate now. Okay, that's what we hate. Okay, and they stick with that. That's what they know. And so, I mean, that's why some of them didn't see the documentary. They see it and then they pull up something negative. There was one woman who posted the smoking gun from 2009, where they had the police report, which was a false report anyway. But that's the kind of thing that people do because they can't or don't want to think for themselves. So he was a victim of the hive mind and the powers that be who decided that he was going to be the scapegoat. And he didn't defend himself. I mean, for whatever reasons, many reasons he had, but he didn't defend himself, which made it even easier for them. But something he didn't do was give up. He tried all of that year to apologize. Nobody wanted to hear the apology. And when he stopped, I'm like, I don't want to hear another apology from him. And he didn't give another one. That was good because I think they didn't want to hear it anyway. They didn't care. So he went on in his own way, and he's gifted with so many talents that they can't deny him. They can be angry they can be as angry as they want, as resentful. I saw someone when he posted one of his shows, I saw how many people were there like, how can he get that? I'm like, because he's talented. He's a great performer. How can he get that? It's absurd. What a ridiculous question. That's those people and media, like one particular media person who is supposed to be, kumbaya and have people, have therapy and all that, immediately was like, he will hit you again. And she ran to the front of the lynch mob when she saw it, because that was to her advantage. That's really the biggest thing that happened to him, was that he was made the scapegoat by the media, and they decided to make him a monster.
I agree with that. This is Nikki. I think, too, it was also a way to profit. So many individuals were able to profit off of their situation by pretending that they care. Most of them did not care, but it was a way to profit and use him as a scapegoat, like you said. However, one of the best blessings that came from that, in my opinion, is his ability to persevere. We got so much music from him in ways that we probably never would have gotten. The mixtapes, the videos, it just, because he was no longer able to be seen as the good boy, it allowed him to really just say what the heck he wanted to say. And go about doing what he wanted to do, to produce, to write. We knew that he could do those things, that he had just started doing those things, but he still had those, he still had to be a little reserved. Even when Lovey-Dovey, not Lovey-Dovey, but what is that song? I can't think of it.
Kiss Kiss.
The song with Yes, thank you, Kiss Kiss. When that came out, it wasn't even supposed to be like that. They had lyrics that were more adult, and his manager at the time said, nope, you can't do that. So once they kind of stripped him of that purity that they had for him, he was really able to, there was really no rules unless he put rules on himself as far as the creativity and stuff that he could put out there. And I don't know if we would have gotten to see all the facets of him the way that we were able to see that if that hadn't happened. Because he was kind of forced to pursue other things.
Right.
Because people weren't being accepting of him. So we knew that he could draw, but the way that he was able to go about that and put that out there and be so young and have his own art show, right? So he was able to really bring those talents to the focal point in a way that I'm not sure he would have been able to do had they not outcast him like that.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And another thing is the issue of business. I mean, there's some of these people that we see that people love to say, oh, they're billionaires. They aren't really rich. They're richer than us, but I'm just saying they're not really rich on the level that they pretend to. And the thing with Chris, I mean, he's made ridiculous amounts of money because he's not just getting endorsement deals. He started Black Pyramid. I like the Mechanical Dummy name, but I'm in the minority. But because I like the ethos of it. But because of that, he's got a multi-million-dollar company that he's getting profit from instead of just waiting for a check from
his musical talent.
Because those checks are a lot more money than we would ever see, but they don't get that much compared to what the manufacturers get. They get a huge amount. They might get 500 million, you get 50,000. It's a lot. 50,000 is a lot of money, but it's not really living up to your potential. And so because of what happened, he makes tens of millions instead of waiting for a check and having to, play nice because, you don't want to upset the sponsors, So there's been quite a few advantages. Sometimes God, when he wants to give you what you want, he takes away what you think you want. And I really think that's the case with him.
I agree.
This is April. I think that too, even with the negativity, you kind of have to, it kind of amazes me that people have the capacity of negativity that they have. It's really interesting, but it boils down to some people just like to be mean, and that's just who they are because they're happy in their own lives. And we encounter that, period. You're going to encounter that at work. You're going to encounter that at church. You encounter it all walks of life. He's just encountering it, and so is. I even looked at DJ Khaled. There was a whole bunch of negative stuff on him on social media this week. They were bashing his album. Like, what is wrong with people? Why are you this unhappy in your own situation that makes you feel so good to put down other people? So that's kind of how you got to look at the negativity. It has nothing to do with the object of the negativity. It has to do with that person, their own inability to accept something that's going on in their situation or their lives, or something needs to be worked out there. And again, I just kind of look at some of the stuff because there's so many more things that you can have a cause on. There is molestation going on, there is murders, people being murdered every day.
Right.
Just walking down the street and, being murdered by, just defenseless people who are being murdered. I follow a lot of crime shows, so I'm always looking at things like that and what's going on in the news. And, people missing. There are just so many more things for you to focus on that it just amazes me how people have the capacity for the negativity that they do. But at the end of the day, he's good. He has to have a very strong spirit to be able to get past that type of negativity. And really all of these stars, they have to. You just have to have a little bit of a hard shell to protect yourself from the haters. And it's my favorite saying, let those haters be your motivators.
Right.
And, that's just what it is. You're just, while you're sitting up here, probably barely making it, here I am on a whole nother pedestal. So I'll never even read your silly comments. So, you know what I'm saying? That's what it is really down to. And people really thought about that. He's not even going to read this. Right. He will never see your silly comment. But it's the people like me and you and all the rest of us who are, I try to block them. Right. And, that's responding and kind of keeping that going, and it's just better to just block them and keep it moving.
Exactly.
They're not stopping his blessings that God has for him. Nobody's stopping anybody else's blessings.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Did we just get
anything else?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just said, did we just get a new caller? I think someone just came in. Do you want to say hello, say your name?
That's you, Tammy.
Oh, you got dropped out? Okay.
I was dropped.
Oh, hello again.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello.
Technology isn't perfect. That's the way it is. Things happen. Welcome back.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank everybody for participating in our second podcast. This is the second one. I've really enjoyed listening to all of your opinions about what we talked about and all of your insight. And I hope you'll tune in for the next one that we have as well. This is actually a really nice thing that we're doing, and it's great to just have that fan participation.
Yeah.
As we talk about these things that affect people. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now, Dee, did you want to tell them a little bit what we're going to talk about next week?
Well, you know what we're going to have to talk about next week. Chris is going to be performing on Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the BT performance. We're also going to talk about, anything that happens as far as he's playing in that celebrity basketball game tomorrow.
Yes.
And we're just going to kind of stop and see, how his performance is and what kind of feedback, positive, more so than negative, that he gets from the media and the other fan group.
Mm-hmm.
What time is the basketball game tomorrow? What time what channel is that going to be on BT?
No.
They should be streaming it. They usually stream it, but it's supposed to start at 11 o'clock. It's an all-day event this time. So it's at 11 o'clock, and it's going to go until probably around 4.
At 11 a.m.
11
Standard?
Pacific time, right?
Pacific time,
yeah. 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Pacific time.
Pacific Standard Time. My time.
Yeah. Okay. So noon for you, April. Sorry.
Okay.
And Nikki too, because Nikki's in the Midwest. And for me it'll be.
No, that's one for me.
Is it?
That's one for me. That's a 2-hour time difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and see if I could stream it, but for some reason I've had problems with my phone service provider. I was trying to use some video from the concert that I went to both times, and I had to call on the phone to see. So I'm having problems with streaming, but I'm going to try and see if I can stream it or at least get part of the game so we can have it in advance.
That'd be good.
Unported. I'll DVR.
Dear, are you going to the game?
Yeah, I'm going to the game. And actually, I'm trying to see if I can. He's having a contest with like a pop-up shop that's going to happen tomorrow. There's a lot of activities that BT's having. And so he's having the Black Pyramid pop-up shop in the morning and most of the day. And then the game itself starts around 11. It might go later than that because they've got all the celebrity stuff going on. And then they're supposed to have a halftime show, and they haven't announced who the performer is. But I'll be there.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being in LA.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all this exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
That we all get to see. So.
You guys want me to jump anybody? You guys want me to do any damage to anybody over there? Do you need to choke anybody out or take a request?
Stick your foot out. Stick your foot out. Trip somebody up.
Absolutely. Absolutely stick your foot out. Trip somebody.
Well, they don't even need to be there. Somebody. So anyway,
Right.
no.
Couple
I got to see
somebody.
him play basketball in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and he was at the Luda Day thing for Labor Day. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Yes.
We're hoping he's going to bring royalty this time, like he did. I think the last time we played at the BT celebrity game. Remember that's the first time we saw royalty out in the game. So maybe he'll
Was that
bring him back.
BET? Was that BET that he did that? Or was that the big boy game? Or maybe that was
Maybe it was the big boy. But
that was
that's
the
the
big
first
boy
time we saw.
Yeah. Be nice if he brought her though.
Yeah. That
It
would
was so
be nice.
big. Okay.
That would be really sweet. Make it a tradition.
Well, Dee, yeah, I agree. Dee or Paula, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I just want to thank everybody for participating the way you did. Everybody came in and came in strong, so I appreciate that. That was great.
It's something I can't get on. I'm trying to help.
But eventually you got on though.
I told him that was somebody. I think they're a little confused with the website.
Oh.
Well, there's an app that we use too. What is it, Paula? What's the app? What's the app called? Go Meeting?
Go to Meeting. Yeah, they do have an app.
Go to Meeting. In the Play Store. So that might be something that might be easier for them to do next time if they want to be a part of the cast as well.
That's what I did. Just click on that link, download that app.
Because that's what I have. I have the app.
So every time you log on, it'll just, all you gotta do is click on the link and it takes you straight there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Once you download the app. So, great. All right, everybody. Thank you for participating. And then hopefully you will all join us when we have our third podcast focused on the BET Awards, because I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun stuff to discuss. It always is.
That show on BT.
Yeah, they do.
Remember the first show is live. The first taping.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. That's true. That's true.
That's right. Yeah,
it is. It always is.
Record that one.
Yep.
Yep.
And then they'll have all those interviews afterwards. I'm excited to see Leslie Jones though. I've never seen her host. She's gonna host the BT Awards. Is that her name right? Leslie Jones?
The comedian, yes, she's hilarious. Yeah. That'll be fun.
I haven't seen her host the show though, so that'll be fun.
I'm glad they tried somebody different this time.
I agree.
So, April, thank you for all your help helping get the agenda and all the help that you did this morning. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome anytime.
Thanks for joining us on this episode, and we hope you'll join us again at the Vanguard.